we are back, and we just finished watching 2023's Origin, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 2 hours and 21 minutes. This is written and directed by Ava DuVernay and is based on Isabel Wilkerson's novel CASTE, The Origins of Our Discontent, which was a New York Times bestseller. And the film is sort of a retelling of the author's life and experiences during a time of social unrest, I guess, in the country following the murder of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman, and how a magazine editor she had previously worked with tried to recruit her to write a piece from her vantage point as a Pulitzer Prize winning author to kind of delve more into race in America, especially in this time where this innocent young man was murdered for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I haven't read the book, and I now want to read this book because I think that the themes being talked about are interesting. And I think that the connections that the author is trying to make are plausible. However, it is too much of an undertaking in a film. This probably would have worked better as a documentary or a limited series where you get to really delve into the author and her research. I think that this film, it's not the worst thing I ever saw, but it's not great. And I think that in order to tell this type of story, I think it would have worked better as a documentary. I think it would have worked better as an exploration of these themes of the caste system throughout the world, in India, in Germany to an extent, and in the Americas. So having said that, I do find the idea here of storytelling interesting, because I think that the writer-director tried to kind of, in her own way, delve into Wilkerson's work and make it consumable for a mass audience. And that's the beauty of film, right? You tell these stories in easily digestible things. But I think that because of what the topic is, I don't think that 2 hours and 21 minutes is enough time to really go into the heart of that. And I think that this would have been better served as a series. What's your impression?
This should have been a documentary. The attempt to make it sort of like a mini biopic of the author as she wrote the book, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I don't care about the author. The author is meaningless to me. If you want to tell me about Isabel Wilkerson's work, show me her work. I don't need to know about her husband. It was, she had a lovely relationship
with her mother and her
with
husband.
Brett, played by John Barenthal. Her mother, her cousin. Everybody I'm just going to spoil this. Everybody dies.
It was like Iron Claw.
It
was like Iron Claw, but not as dramatic.
I was just thinking that it was like Iron Claw, and in Iron Claw, they realized there's too much death. Let's remove one of the brothers that killed themselves and just keep it at 2.
No, it was 3.
3?
Yeah.
I forgot, but still, it was such a weird way to tell this story.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they chose to do it this way. It's an interesting subject. I think
fascinating. Yeah.
Every review we've read talks about, it's an interesting subject. I thought the subject was interesting. It's an interesting theory about how it's not really this sort of like, we're better than you, so you must serve us and you must serve us forever. It's more than just race. It's about a class thing, which has been conveniently named by Indian society, the caste system, because they've been doing it and they're still doing it. But to sort of like mix that in with her personal life and the things she's going through and her exploration of the facts rather than just show me the facts.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her having a discussion where it's sort of like her and some German lady having like a dick measuring contest about, who suffered more.
Right.
Didn't need to have the pep talks from the cousin. Didn't need the stuff about the mom.
Or even the stuff with the husband.
Or even the stuff with the husband.
John Barenthal.
Yeah, it was pointless.
Yeah.
It was pointless. It went nowhere. It added nothing but movie length.
Yeah.
And it could have been better served just by talking about the subject itself And I feel like this is something that should be, like I said, a documentary, not some sort of fictionalized account of her writing this book. It's like, okay, it's time to get cracking with my self-imposed deadline, and
yeah, nobody cares about that.
Nobody cares about that. There's no sort of like, oh, they're trying to stop me from writing about this. Or the biggest conflict she seems to have is a bit of an argument with Nick Offerman as the surly plumber who she ends up finding common ground with.
Right. Yeah. Also, the story with the little league team. And the whole thing with the pool, I was like,
it's
hell?
It's just let's throw another example of racism or our American style caste system in there and talk about this one incident.
Right. And
meanwhile, you already had the incident with Trayvon Martin.
Right.
And you had the whole story about the black couple and the white couple in the Deep South doing investigations. In fact, I think that's what their book was called, Deep South.
Yeah.
About how things were seriously bad back in those days.
Sure.
And I guess the reason for that was their connection with Germany at the time, too. They fled Germany.
In the beginning, they fled Germany and they came back to
the States.
Which was no better. Yeah.
Yeah. It just felt really all over the place.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
And it was hard to understand the timeline when you're jumping around like that. And
a little. I mean, it didn't really bother me that much. There was maybe just like once or twice where I was a little bit confused as to what the hell was going on. Also, like where she was at the time. I'm guessing most of it took place at the mom's old house.
Yeah.
'Cause I guess she was packing it up, and she used it as a metaphor at the end for the current situation in this country and people who say, oh, well, I wasn't around. Yeah, okay, you weren't around back in those days, but, we still live in the house where it happened.
Right.
With all its cracks and flaws and whatnot, which is it's a cool metaphor. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. And also very important. It's important not to forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But like I said, better said in a documentary. We in the reviews, it was like, oh, we wanted to present it to the masses in a more digestible way. And no, you're not presenting it to me in a more digestible way because you didn't make an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
I'm not entertained by this. It's not a good-looking movie.
No.
I've only seen 2 films by Ava DuVernay, and the other one was A Brief History of Time.
A Wrinkle in Time.
A Wrinkle in Time. Sorry, A Wrinkle in Time.
Yes, we saw that in the theater.
We saw that in the theater,
what the hell?
And we're like, why is this such an ugly movie?
Yes.
And this was just as ugly. It was everything's grainy, everything's dark and underlit.
Yeah, this wasn't great cinematography.
It's not good cinematography.
If you look at Aliens from 1979.
Well, let's
like
not.
That looks. That looks.
That looks amazing.
That looks amazing.
That looks amazing.
Yeah.
Most stuff looks amazing, but it's not a good looking movie. The costumes were spot on. There you go. That's what you get. They spent the money on the costumes. They didn't spend it on lighting rigs or cinematography.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that was shot outside was decent because I guess it was like natural light or whatever.
Even that looked kind of grainy and crappy. And just the story, it felt such a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
So I am not a fan of this movie.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this movie too. I am intrigued about the subject matter, and like I said, I have the 2 Isabel Wilkerson books, but I haven't gotten around to reading them. But yeah, I'm also flummoxed because I feel like you said, this would have worked better as a documentary. And it's interesting because we're going to pair this with Emilia Perez. And even though Emilia Perez is like also a hodgepodge of things, the storytelling there is stronger.
A lot
it's
stronger.
It's absolutely stronger. And I guess our theme this week could be stories from the perspective of women, but this wasn't a strong enough piece for me to give it a great grade. So I'm going to go and say a 6.
Probably give this a 4.
A 4, okay.
It's not terrible, but it's not good either.
Yeah.
It's below average for me. It's an interesting subject. If you're interested in this, maybe read her book.
Yeah.
Don't watch this movie.
It got a lot of praise. I mean, this has been on my list to watch for a long time now. We finally got to it. It's currently streaming on Hulu, and I'm watching it, and I can't lie, I passed out a little there.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah.
I stayed awake for the whole damn thing.
And we broke this up
Over 2 days.
Over 2 days. So, yeah, that tells you a lot. And I feel bad because I feel like the kernel of this is absolutely important, but the way it's done here just doesn't work.
Yeah,
just doesn't work.
It's an interesting idea that's done a disservice by the way it was presented.
Yeah, yeah.
This
just
should
do
not.
a documentary.
This should not be a feature movie. This should be a documentary.
Yeah. And maybe it did happen. I guess, is that the way she met her husband that day where he kind of stood up for her? I don't know. But that could also be an embellishment. And it's like you're romanticizing this thing. And listen, I don't doubt that she loved her husband, that she had a loving relationship with her husband, but that's not what the story is supposed to be about. It's about the study of the caste system throughout human history has worked to keep certain people down, right? Yeah. And that's what I want to see. That's what the story I want you to tell me. Tell me more about that. Tell me, like, I was fascinated about the researchers that did the Deep South book, the white couple and the black couple. Like, tell me a story about them.
And that, to me, that felt like it was given such short
little
screen
attention.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
You had some like sort of interesting moments.
Yeah.
And then it was just sort of like, all right, now we're moving on, and now we're talking about
her cousin.
We're talking about her cousin, and now we're with two Dalits digging out a trench for pooping, and now we're talking about a little kid who's not allowed to go swimming.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of,
what is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just broken. It should not have been presented this way.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave it a 4, because I'm guessing you're supposed to be presenting this in a way that people will maybe find entertaining as well as informative, but you're not.
Because of the subject matter here, I think it would have been more timely and important to present it in a way that kind of adhered more to what's in the book. I mean, maybe she has, again, I haven't read it, maybe she does have passages of what's going on in her life as she's doing this research.
Maybe.
But I don't want to know about it. I want to know about the caste system and the origins of our discontent.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know about.
Even if that was in the book, I would honestly find that distracting as well.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
You're
taking
talking
away
about
from the thesis.
You're talking about this. This is a heavy subject.
Yeah.
This is some seriously heavy subject matter.
Millions of people have died.
Millions of people are being killed over the course of human history.
Right.
And then to just suddenly have an aside where you're just remembering about, how you and your husband met.
Right. Your last fight.
Yeah. Or having a memory about your last fight, or how he encouraged or was upset that you weren't going to write the book. It's weird. It's sort of like it's suddenly you're just like, all right, spotlight on me now.
Right.
Hey, look at me. I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing.
Right.
I want to know more about
the
couple in the Deep South who have the racist sheriff looking at them.
Right. And
did anything come of that? What happened to that?
Yeah. I mean, there was that scene where there was a lynching, obviously, and I thought it was him. I thought it was the black researcher.
We're sort of trained to expect that sort of thing from a movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And this was not meant to be a movie.
Yeah.
This is
and that story was interesting because, like we mentioned before, it started in Germany. They were in Germany. And there's that scene where they're at that library.
Of the Nazis, where it was just getting started. And like some German guys just like, hey,
you need to leave.
You need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, things are going south super fast. Yeah, yeah. And they come here and it's no better. So,
it's just a different flavor.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I mean, I don't think there's really any more to say here. You gave it a 4. I gave it a 6. It's, if you are so inclined, you can check it out. It's currently streaming on Hulu. But again, I think, like, as to your point, I think go check out Isabel Wilkerson's book, Origin, CASTE, The Origin of Our Discontent, which was published in 2020. Yeah, I have nothing more to add. All right, that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
Good night.
good night.